Hey everyone, in this video, I want to show you how to use Venice AI. It's very different than Claude or ChatGPT, but its API is very powerful. You have lots of models to choose from. You can get a lot done. It's going to end up being cheaper, and you're going to have different incentives for being part of its network. I think it's a really cool project, so I'm excited to share it with you today. I use it in pretty much all of my directory builds to automate the processing of the data I scrape, and I save a lot of money by doing so. So I'm going to introduce you to the Venice AI platform. I'm going to show you how to buy tokens. We're going to buy tokens and stake them so then we can use its API, and then we're going to make some basic scripts in Cursor to see how to connect the Venice API to a script that you're writing. Even if you're not a coder like me, we'll get it all done. And then we'll do a little financial calculations at the end to see if this is a viable option for you or not. Regardless of the financials, this is still a very powerful tool that I recommend you take a look at. And just as a disclaimer, I make this abundantly clear in the video, but I'm not trying to shill tokens. I'm not trying to give you financial advice. This video is not financial advice. It's just a really cool tool that you can use, and it happens to use Web3 to make it possible. And we're going to dive into that. Venice AI lets you harness open source LLMs, and Venice AI focuses on privacy. It keeps all your chats encrypted and stored in the browser. As far as big tech services go, you are not the product, which I always try to advocate for. Own your data when you can, run it locally. Their whole company and network has other ways to make money off of you using it without harvesting your data to train models, to sell to advertisers, etc., etc. Not to mention, most of us can't run LLMs with billions of parameters on our home computers. So using Venice's resources to do so is a great alternative. So let's dive in. We're gonna log in here, and you're gonna see you have multiple ways to log in. So you can log in however you want. If you're already familiar with Web3 stuff and you have like a MetaMask or a Phantom wallet, then you can log in that way. And then you'll just have to confirm with your browser extension, and then you'll be able to buy tokens that way. But let's assume you don't have one of those. I'm going to tell you the easiest way to do this is with Coinbase. Now you could sign in with Coinbase, or you could just make a new account and later pay for the tokens with Coinbase. But here on Coinbase, this is the simplest way for many countries, not every country, but you can make an account on Coinbase, and then you can literally just buy the VVV token on here. And then I'm going to show you how to transfer that over. You can see I can pay with my bank account, or I could pay with Bitcoin or whatever. Coinbase makes that the simplest. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a brand new account. And now I'm here. Just a quick rundown. As you can see here, I can choose the model. So they got Mistral Small, Llama 3.2, Llama 3.3, Quen, Dolphin, DeepSeek, and this is like a big DeepSeek model, right? 671B. Llama 3.3, I think, is a really good open source model. Some of these are good for coding, etc. Dolphin is very uncensored. But you can see I have to have a pro account in order to use that. So then you're going to need to upgrade your account, because if I'm here in the API, the only way you can use the API is to purchase API credits. Now, that is not going to be the best way to use the power of Venice. As you can see here, it's either $18 a month with it, which is a bit cheaper than, for example, Claude or ChatGPT, but only $150 a year. There's a 30% discount. This is a very reasonable price, I would argue. And not to mention, it's going to allow us to use our VVV tokens in the API. So once you've upgraded your account, and I know a lot of you watching this are probably on a budget and you're like, whoa, all these expenses are adding up. That is the nature of using AI, but let me just tell you, with the power you're going to get from this and what you can accomplish, these investments are well worth it. Okay, so once you've got your pro account set up, then you'll notice you can use all these other models. You can go to the API, and you can see now that, yes, you can purchase API credits with dollars, but what we want to do is use the token. So let me run you through this real quick before we buy the token. What this means is that there are 181,480 Venice compute units that are available every day. But for example, yesterday, only 7,401 were used. And on this day, 12,000. But the total capacity of their network, of their company, all their machinery, everything they've got going is 181,000. So you can see there's a long way to go before this gets maxed out. Now, how does this work? So like here, you can see there's 174,000 available, 7,000 have been consumed, which is only 4%. And the next epoch begins in 5 hours, which I'll explain in just a minute. Now, this is the VVV token staked supply. What is staking? If you're new to Web3, staking is what happens when you bond your tokens, which means you can't sell them for a certain period of time. They're still yours, but you insert them into a smart contract that dictates what happens with those tokens. In this case, it just locks the tokens. So as you can see here, 1.58 million tokens have been staked by Venice Compute Unit users. Venice Compute Unit users are just API users. There are a total of 29 million tokens out in the wild. There's a total supply of 69.84 million that will ever be available, even though currently it's only this. So unlike the Federal Reserve that can print infinite money, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies will say this is the total supply. And they can do that because this is programmatic money. It uses smart contracts, it uses blockchain, which can't be changed unless there's consensus of the whole network. But we'll save that for another time. So of that 29 million in existence, 17 million are staked, which is 61%, which means if the total price, which right now is $2.61, if that jumps up to $20 tomorrow, only 39% of those tokens are going to be able to be sold, which would bring the price down. Now, why is that important? Because when you're staking the tokens, you can't unstake for 1 week, which means if there is a big price increase, if everyone sold their tokens, then the price would crash and everyone would not be happy. Instead, there's an incentive to stake your tokens because you're getting the API credits. So there's only 39% of tokens that would be able to sell the pump, basically. And ideally, it wouldn't destroy the token, which happens to a lot of small tokens. Now, there's one other really awesome incentive of staking your tokens in Web3, and that is your yield, which is a 60% APR right now. So what does that mean? You're getting rewarded for locking up your tokens so you can't sell them. Not to mention, you also get to use their API daily. Your share of this amount of Venice Compute units, you get to use every day based on how many tokens you own. Now, why would you do that? Maybe you want to scrape data like I do. Maybe you want to have a chatbot, an agent. Venice AI, from what I've learned, they want to be the main platform for AI agents. So the AI agent would just be able to use this inference capacity without its owner having to pay OpenAI or Anthropic or whatever for the inference capacity. Because OpenAI, Anthropic, they can get expensive for every little thing you do. Not to mention, if you want to create a totally autonomous agent, which people are working on, then they need to be able to pay, these agents need to be able to pay with cryptocurrency because you don't need a name and an address like a credit card. So that's a bit of background about how this whole thing works. So we can take advantage of it as builders by buying some tokens, staking it, gaining some yield, which shouldn't really be the reason you want to buy the tokens, but it is a perk because that is going to go down. For example, when I first got Venice tokens, that was worth $10. Now it's worth 61. Now, there's a lot of factors involved with that. You shouldn't look at this investment as something that's going to go up. Look at it as an investment in inference capacity. You can use this API as long as you have credits, and the next day, the next epoch, it resets. So let's talk about open versus closed networks real quick. Now, Venice isn't necessarily a huge open source network. Its token is, but their actual hardware, the software itself, everything going on there, they're a company running an open network. So why do I bring this up? Because if you think about Anthropic or OpenAI, you have a closed network. It's a company that has all the resources that you have to pay to play. That's it. What Venice is doing is creating an open network where as long as you're an owner in the network, you're part of it by having the token, and in this case, staking the token, then you get to use those resources. Your share of those resources in the network, you get to use every day. You get to use your share every day, and you don't have to keep paying for it. So I know that might be a new concept for some of you, and it might be seemingly unrelated, but we're going to get back into it later when we start talking about the costs and comparing this to OpenAI or Anthropic API. Let's start playing around. We are going to buy some tokens. Now, first thing we got to do is buy the tokens. So I can connect my wallet here. So now I'm connected to my wallet that's built into Brave. And you can see there's my address here. I can copy it. There's nothing in here. And it's showing me also the network, which you can't change here. But I've logged in with the Coinbase wallet. Now I'll click Buy Crypto. I'll choose the Coinbase provider. And now it's forwarding me to my actual Coinbase account. So now I'm just going to type VVV here. And I'm going to say I want $20. I'm going to preview the buy. $20. I'm going to get 7.3 VVV, free network fee, 10 cents fee, boom. I click confirm there and it's buying my crypto from my bank account. See how quick that was? It's done. And it says I sent $20. I sent the VVV to my new wallet here. So now I have VVV. And I'm just going to refresh this page. And it says I have 7.3 VVV. Okay, the price went down a little since I bought it. Now, as you can see, I can now click that stake button. I'm going to put all of it in. And this is what I meant earlier. There's a 7-day cooldown period required to unstake your tokens. So once you have it staked, you can't just sell it right away if the price goes up. And then we're going to have to sign the message in the wallet. And that opens from my browser. Who's it paying for? Great. And we're going to need a gas fee. Folks new to Web3, you need more than just the VVV token in order to use it. Because how blockchains work is there's a transaction fee basically every time you want to send or stake or do whatever with a token from your wallet, with a smart contract, or send it. Whenever you're taking action on the blockchain, you have to pay a very small gas fee. And in this case, it's Ethereum on the Base network. So Base is a layer 2 of Ethereum. Ethereum itself has gotten very expensive, but the layer 2, like Base, there's other ones as well, they're much cheaper. So you buy Ethereum on the Base network, and we can do that on Coinbase, and we only need a few dollars. I'm only buying $5 here, and then you're going to have the right currency in your wallet to conduct transactions with the blockchain, which is what we need to do. And by the way, that $5 will last you for much longer than just this tutorial. That $5 is just the minimum on Coinbase. But you could probably get away with $1 or $2 if you're able to get your hands on that much. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to click Ethereum, and we want to make sure it's on the Base network. So Ethereum exists on its own network, which is expensive and slow and lame. But then there's all these other networks you can use, which are much faster. They're essentially layer 2s, but they're also cross-chain versions of Avalanche or Polygon, etc. So I'm going to choose Base. It's going to my smart wallet, which is in my browser. Okay. And then we got that $5 and it was sent to my wallet here. So let's try that again. Stake, max. And now it's giving me a warning saying this app can withdraw all your VV. Make sure you trust the site. What this whole confirmation is saying, hey, this app can and it will withdraw all your VVV. So make sure you trust the site. All right. So now we have 0.8462 VCU ready to use. So we're now officially staked. And as you can see, this is going to start going up. These are my rewards from staking, which is cool. And then when you have enough, you can click claim and restake, which will add them to what you have staked. So it'll compound the amount of tokens you're staking and it'll keep going up over time. Obviously, the more you're staking, the more your rewards will be. So now I'm going to go over here to the API and I have a balance now. Okay, so now that we understand Venice AI a little bit and we've bought our tokens, we're now going to jump into staking the tokens so we can use the API. But before we keep going, I just want to ask you, how confident are you with the command line? If you want to learn how to properly harness AI tools and not just use no-code, paid SaaS solutions all the time, you're going to want to develop a basic command line competence because that's going to help you piece together open source scripts from around GitHub, from around the internet, tie them together with LLMs like Venice to do cool stuff that you want to do. Build AI agents, scrape data, whatever it is. You don't need to learn how to code, but you do need to be familiar with the command line. So if you're not familiar yet, check out the link below. There's a free 5-day command line bootcamp. You'll get an email every day. It'll give you a basic lesson, a rundown, and then some extra resources at the end so you can familiarize yourself with the terminal so you can take a giant step forward in your building with AI. So now let's continue with staking our tokens so we can use the Venice API. I want to try a little experiment here, because I've never actually bought the API credits. So that is 0.8462. I wonder what the lowest amount I can buy is. Can I just buy 5? No, it's 10. So I'm going to buy $10 of the API credits. But what I would like to do is see how the USD API credits compare with the VCU balance, because I want to see what the difference is. But anyway, now we can generate a new API key. So I'll call this tutorial. Admin or inference only. Admin would mean it could change parts of your account. Inference means we're just going to use it. We could set an expiration date. We could set a limit. Let's do this. Let's say tutorial VCU. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a new project inside Cursor. So I just did Apple N. And I'm going to make this a .n file. So I'm going to say Venice API key. And then I'm going to paste it in. Copy, paste. Now I'm going to save that. I'm going to make a new folder called Venice tutorial. And I'm going to save it as .env. I'm going to call this Venice API key VCU. Okay? Because then what I want to do, and let me refresh this and see if the dollars have finished. Yes, so now I have $10. So now I'm going to generate a new API key, tutorial USD, inference only. So I'm going to copy that now, and I'm going to put that also in my .n file. Boom. Okay, so we have those two in here now. And the reason I'm doing both of these is because I would like to see if it actually uses, if this is the same amount as like $1 or like 84 cents. So let's see how that goes. We have our API keys. Now, the next thing we need to do is go to the Venice docs. There's lots of documentation here about how to use the API. So what we're going to do here, go to Quick Start first, and it's saying we can choose the models here. That's always a good start, is to list the models. So this curl command you can just do from the terminal. Go or Python or JavaScript, you would put that into a actual script and run the script. But we can just do this. So do Apple J to open up the terminal. I paste that in, and it's showing me all the models here. Now it's a little sloppy. That's okay, because we're going to have Cursor AI agent process everything. So I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm just going to call it Venice docs. And then inside Venice docs, I'm going to make a file called models.json. And we're going to copy all of this. And I'm using JSON because it looks like it's formatted like JSON. So we'll just leave that there. And the screen share gets a little crazy here, but basically all we're doing is copying code from the Venice Quick Start Guide, putting it into a new file in Cursor, and then we're going to adjust the things we want. We got to change the API key. We want to change the text, the question, the system prompt, etc. This is an example of a chat completion. So we're going to copy that code. We're going to make a new file in Cursor. We're going to paste in that code, and then we're going to find this header authorization bearer line where we can replace our API key right here. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to use the VCU here, go back here, and put it right there. And okay, system, you are a helpful assistant that can help me understand Venice AI API. Then my prompt is going to be, with the Venice API, is 1 USD, 1 VCU? Okay, so that's going to be our little prompt here, okay? And this is all just default. We're not going to be too worried about that right now. So I'm going to copy all this. And now you can see here, this is making a post request, okay? This is the URL of the API. Specifically the service we want to use, which is chat completions. This is the authorization saying, hey, this person has permission to use the API. So now we copy all this, and we could also change the model here if we wanted. So we could go back in here, we could word wrap this to see it better, and we could use like Llama 3.1 or DeepSeek or Qwen, but we're just gonna stick to Llama. Okay, so I'm gonna cut all that because we don't need it in the file. And now I'll make the terminal bigger, and we're going to paste it, and we're going to see what happens. So now this is all, it's in JSON format. So I'm going to add this to the chat, as you can see here, this Apple L, and I'm going to say, parse this data so I can see it. Display the data as markdown. Based on the provided search results, the most relevant information regarding the Venice API and VCUs can be found in this. Oh, so it searched the internet, how to use Venice API. The content of this result mentions that the Venice API provides cutting-edge access. It does not explicitly state the conversion rate. All right, so we don't know. It didn't have the answer there, and that's okay because we're going to keep messing around. Now we can go back to our dashboard and we can see we just used 0.000118, okay, from our inference capacity. Now let's see what happens when we use the USD API key. We got to go back up here. And I shouldn't have removed that. Yeah. So now I'm going to switch that API key to the USD API key. And I'm going to send. Not sure where that's coming from. No such file or directory or API key. It's going a little slower this time, but there it is. Let's go back here and I'll refresh it. Now it looks like it may not even have used 1 cent from that. Yeah, it looks like, oh, there we go. I think we have our answer. Same prompt, same everything, was the same exact amount. Even though that's in USD, but still putting it as VCU. Let's now make a script that uses Venice API and is going to use our compute units. So what do we want to do? For example, let's say we want to make a chatbot. Okay, let's just make a simple chatbot. We need to have all the docs. So we are just simply going to go to Venice API documents. We will go here to the API reference. We will take this Swagger YAML doc. We'll copy that. We'll make a new file inside of Venice docs. I'll call it swagger.yaml. Oh, there we go. Save that in there. And then we want to continue OpenAI compatibility. So they pretty much use the same specification as OpenAI, except that it's Venice.ai in the base URL, not OpenAI. So what we're going to do here is just copy all of this. And I'm going to write a new file, API spec.md, paste that there. Rate limits, arrow codes, chat. We kind of want chat, right? So we're going to probably use JavaScript for this. So I'll simply copy this and we'll write chat.md. That's what we'll call the file. And then we'll give it that. We'll say, we'll make sure it knows. Okay. And we'll call that, it'll figure it out. It'll know. Model feature suffix. We don't really care about that right now, but this is cool because they have a bunch of characters in Venice. So here I am, and you can see all these characters. So I could talk to Goku. In fact, maybe let's just do that. Let's find one. Let's talk to Obama. I won a Nobel Peace Prize by starting multiple wars. Yeah, you did. Okay. So if that's the name, let's see what the name is. We might have to use this default character slug. The slug is probably that, Barack Hussein Obama, but we could just use Alan Watts too. Maybe we'll just use that. I'm just going to copy that in there. Say, let's use a character. And now you could also use this to generate images, upscale images. There is really cool abilities here. If I go back to the chat, you can see I can generate an image and I can use all these different models. They have artistic ones. They've got uncensored ones that can be very not safe for work. And then you can modify all this good stuff inside your settings, including remove the watermark, don't make it not safe for work, make it super creative, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Image styles. So you can do all that with the API as well. That's what I did with the Vibe Builders AI website directory. I had it automate all these different images with a certain style. And yeah, they're a bit repetitive, but it was a fun project, and they all use the same color scheme, so you can use the API for something like that. Let's go back now to the API screen and let's continue our fun experiment here. Start a new chat, and I'm going to drag in the Venice docs. Say, let's create a basic chat bot with a web interface where the user can chat with the Alan Watts character using Venice AI's API. And then we're going to specify use the VCU Yeah, I think they're the same now, but use the Venice from .n. Okay, so now hopefully we gave it enough information about the spec. It got its base URL. It knows about the chat completion. It knows what's going on with chats. And this should be pretty simple. Oh, it looks like it's going to use Python as well. Yeah, Python is Flask. Okay, that's interesting because we gave it the JavaScript, whatever. We also I forgot to say which model we want to use. So it's probably going to use a default. And if we go over to the pricing, by the way, you can see here how much VCU you're going to use per million tokens. So Llama 3.2 here is 1.5. Quen, Mistral is a bit more. Llama 3.3, 7. Dolphin 72B, DeepSeek. And the reason for that, and look, Llama 3.1, 405 billion parameters, DeepSeek R1 671, 35, right? So it's kind of costly. $3.50. So yeah, it does look like this ranges like 10 VCU is $1, something like that. And then here's for the images and audio model. Now, real quick, I run this locally on Ollama. That's why it's cheap, because it's not as intensive for the computing power. But these ones, these huge parameter models, there's a reason it costs that much, and that's because they have to have these big, powerful machines that can do it. So, okay, here we go. We need to install the requirements here. PIP install requirements, manual create the .n file. We already did that. And I'm going to paste the install requirements. Good. And then we got a Flask run. Okay. And it made a development server here. I command click it, and it brings me to a chat with Alan Watts. Hello there. What's on your mind? I am debating the nature of human reality. Something went wrong. Error 500 this time, which probably means, yeah, it found, client error. Huh. Here's the error. Now, I have a feeling I know what it is, but real quick as that diagnosis, okay, model ID, this is not a real model, right? So let's go to models here, and let's just use, Llama 3.3, and let's go back there. Okay, so I tried to fix that. Save that. So Alan Watts might not work with Llama. So if we go back to our chat and we go to characters, let's find Alan Watts here. Oh, there's a lot of characters, huh? Salma Hayek. Alan Watts. Okay. Mistral Small 3.1. Okay. Let's turn on word wrap. Type in Mistral Small 3.1. Okay, that's the one. Now we're going to paste that in here. And let's paste that there. All right. And it took a minute, but we got it. The nature of human reality is a deeply philosophical and interdisciplinary topic. Cool. Now, obviously, if this was a real chatbot, we'd add some markdown processing. So if we go back to our API, we'll now see, what did we use? We used another 0.0 something. I don't have the math, 26. So it's not using a lot for that. Okay, but now let's take it to the next level. We're going to do some scraping. So you can get Crawl for AI at crawforai.com. You can click this GitHub stars thing and then go to code, and you can download it. Okay, download the zip and then drag it into your cursor window. And now here we go, Crawl for AI main. There's all of Crawl for AI. There are the docs. I'm going to create a new chat and cursor. And I'm going to drag over, I don't think it's the docs as much. We'll just do all the docs, whatever. I think it's really this MDV2 folder. Shows you how to do it, but let's just let it figure it out. Okay, so now we're going to say using Crawl for AI plus Venice. I want to use Llama 3.3. Yeah, okay, we'll use Llama 3.1. Okay. For using Tavily Crawl for AI and Venice, I want to scrape 10 URLs into markdown files and then create LLM generated summaries of each URL and make HTML files from each record scraped. Something like that. All right, so let's let that go for a minute. So Tavily is an API you can use to get Google search results. I mean, it does plenty of things, but that's what it's normally used for. I was trying to use it for this. So we use Tavily to get the URLs, and then we have Crawl for AI scrape the URLs, and then we have Venice AI process and make descriptions of the URLs. But the Tavily thing didn't really work out as a one shot. I was hoping to get lucky, and this isn't a tutorial about making scripts, it's about Venice. So I just put in the URLs manually. Let's look at its thinking. Crawl for AI is a tool for this. So it's going through the documentation, scripting URLs, no Tavily is for searches. Crawl for AI, yes. Venice, yes. Output markdown files. Changing the name to just Venice API key. We're going to use a VCU. Okay, so here it goes. It's using Crawl for AI. It's using Venice. Processing URL, 1 out of 10. Philosophical realism. Attempting to scrape database backup created. Now it's using the next one. Okay, so it scraped through Wikipedia. And then it's successfully scraped, now attempting summarization using Venice, Llama 3.1, saved markdown file. So now it's going to keep going. And as we can see here, where do we go? Scraped markdown. We're going to get this file. And now, obviously, there's more tweaks we could do to make sure we don't get this menu stuff. Source URL. There's the summary by Llama. Philosophical realism is a view that a certain kind of thing has mind-independent existence. Now, there's a good chance that that was at the top of this page anyway. But regardless of how simple it was, this is the LLM Venice Llama 3.1 model, 405 billion parameter summary. And you can essentially employ a similar workflow for any scraping you want to do. When I made MontessoriFind.com, for example, many Montessori school websites are sloppy. They're just not very nice looking. So it was hard to scrape all that data. I had to scrape multiple pages, and then I had the Venice LLM say, hey, make a description that's like this. And then that's what it did. So here we go. It's got all these. It's got 1, 2, 3, 5 of them done now. And we're using the VCU balance, and it's looking like it's used a lot more now. 0.5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now not all these, so it looks like there's no text to summarize. So that didn't work. Now, if I go to this URL, I have a feeling it's very like React framework based. Oh, because it has a Cloudflare thing in the very beginning. So it couldn't get through that. So there's ways around that. Not super important for today. Are we at 10 yet? We're at 9. Do we still have credits? We're running out of credits. But it looks like that'll get done. So if we imagine, so that's 1 that didn't work. Looks like only 1 didn't work. Great. 3, 6, 10. So we have 10 of these. 1 didn't work. So let's say we had 9. And we used 0.7. How much did we use? It was a bit less than 0.7. Let's just say it was 0.6. So let's just do this again now, and we're going to use the other API key. I'm just going to change this to VCU. And now we're going to see literally how many dollars it's using. Now let's remember now, we got 0.012 going on. So we need to subtract that. I'll write that here. Okay, so let's run the script again. And then we can do a quick calculation to see how much it would cost you and how much time it would cost you to do 100 records, 1,000 records. And that could give you an idea of, do I want to buy more tokens? Keep staking it. So since we started here, yeah, I've made that much VVV, not even 1 cent yet. Oh, it looks like I've already used full capacity. I went negative. So that's why we're using the dollars now. So you can see it's going up here. We've used 2 cents. One other thing I want to say, when you're scraping websites that aren't very clean, the LLM is really important, because if you set up Crawl for AI right, or any Python scraping script, when they're open source, they're free, you'll save so much money. But Sometimes it's just a mess. And the way to get past that is using LLMs. So if you're able to make a nice workflow with Cursor, you don't even need to know coding. If you're able to make a nice workflow, you can really minimize the amount of LLMs you need to use for your scraping process and just keep it for when it's really important. And like I said, we're not even using an LLM to scrape right now. We're using it just to summarize what we've scraped. And so far, we've got 6 summaries, 7. Let's refresh. We're at 7 summaries, and it's under 7 cents so far. This would actually be a fun directory consciousness stuff. Maybe I'll do that next. Okay, so we got 10 URLs, successfully processed, 10 out of 10. Okay, so I've done some quick napkin math here. I'm not a spreadsheet guy. I'm not a math guy. I'm not an accountant. I don't do things like this normally, but bear with me here because the answer is here in the data. So we bought 7.3764 tokens with $20. Now, if we had spent $100, we got 35 tokens. $500 would have bought us 175. Okay. And if I just put a new row here, how many records did we process with that? Let's just say we got 10 records times 5. We would have got 50 records times another 10 times another 5. We got 250 records, right? In one day. Okay. So if you had, I'm using 2,500 records as an example here. So if we had 2,500 records, this would have taken, if we had bought $500 worth of tokens, staked it, it would have taken us 10 days to scrape that 2,500 records for like a directory, for example. I mean, you could be doing anything with this, but I know a lot of people watching this are trying to build directories. So meanwhile, we put in $10 of USD. We got 10 records done for a cent. So that $10, for 10 cents. So for approximately 10 cents, we really did like 9 records for 8 cents, but let's just round it to 10. So with that $10, we would get what? 1,000 records. $10 would have got us 1,000 records. And $25 would have got us 2,500 records. Okay. I hope my math is right there. And I hope you forgive me if it's not right, but I'm pretty sure we kind of get it. So with that daily VCU, we're getting 0.8. And that can be recycled, right? You can use that every day. I don't know if recycle is the right term there, but you can use that every day. So you're set with that 0.8, you're getting 10 records a day. And if you think about it, we did a lot of processing here. We scraped whole Wikipedia pages, we put them all in markdown files, and then we said, hey, Venice, use an LLM to summarize this. Okay, so it did a lot of work there. So that would have been, I don't know, my math is going to be horrible here. In fact, I'm not even going to do the math, but you get it. You'd have more VCU. So my main conclusion here is, let's get rid of that. My main conclusion here is, if you buy the tokens, say you bought $500, you could scrape 2,500 records like that in 10 days. You'd have to wait because you'd have to wait for the epoch to start over. If you just spent 25, you would get those same 2,500 records done right away. So I understand why Venice offers both those options. It makes sense. It depends on your project. If you're doing a one-off project, you might just want to do $25. If you're making an agent, if you're trying to scrape data consistently or just use data, even if it's a chatbot or image generation bot on Discord, you're going to need those daily credits. You don't necessarily need to process 2,500 Wikipedia pages in a day. That's kind of a lot. So that's the first way to look at it, is if you're just doing one project, then you might just want to buy the records. You might just want to use Gemini or OpenAI or whatever, unless you really want the privacy, which I advocate for. Venice is cool. You might even want to just do it locally on a llama, which one day I'll do a tutorial for. But let's look at it another way now. That's $500. The token's worth, I don't know, $260 right now. And if it's $260, it could go down, it could go up. But let's just imagine it stays the same, the token price. $500, after you wait 10 days, you'd have to unstake it. So in 17 days, you could take that money back out. Now, crypto is volatile. That could go up, that could go down. Now, I'm not trying to make this about a token or anything like that. Actually, it's at 277. It's gone up 3% since I filmed the rest of this tutorial the other day. And if you look at just the whole history of the token since the beginning of February, it had its initial sell-off. It got super low. It went up again. And then now it's just kind of like here, hovering around the bottom. And it could go down for sure, but it also could go up. And if you follow crypto, you can have an opinion about that if we're in a bull market or not. I'll let you be the judge of that. But my point is you might spend $25 to do those records, and then that's it. That $25 is spent. Or you put in more money, you do all your records in a few days, and then you unstake, you take your rewards, and you sell it again. You can sell it back to Coinbase. You got some transaction fees, but you can get most of that money back. So that's another way to look at it. I don't necessarily think that's the best way to do it. I personally like knowing I have those VCUs available to me at any time for any project I want. So to me, having that $500 is a great investment because I can use it for whatever I need to. If I need the 670B parameter DeepSeek for something, I have it. If I need Llama 3.3 because Llama 3.2 on my laptop isn't cutting it, I have it. And I can just connect to it. So this is food for thought. Before you make your big decisions, this is all part of the learning process. It's normal to make mistakes. It's also normal to lose money in crypto. So once again, don't be buying this token because you think you're going to make a bunch of money. Think about what it could mean for your projects and how you build. So food for thought. If you're not in a rush and you just want to scrape, not slowly, but scrape in chunks, then you can save a lot of money by buying and staking the VVV token instead. But if you want to go fast, then you may as well just buy the tokens, or you may as well just use OpenAI. But what I like to advocate on this channel is buying whatever you're comfortable with and then just scraping at that speed. And like I said, 4 hours here, it's going to reset and I can do 10 more records, 10 more records, 10 more records. But if you're looking to scrape data as a hobby, things like that, then this is a good way to just put some money in and know that, okay, maybe in the long term, I can sell it. And as long as it's not too much lower than that price, I get my money back. And I just got to scrape all that kind of for free. Or if the price goes up, then you can make a profit on it. Not to mention, you're going to get rewards. So maybe you're going to make money on that. Okay, my friends, so that's Venice AI. I think you can understand my opinion on the matter by now. I think if you're trying to create any sort of agent out there and you want to work with data frequently, it's kind of a no-brainer. Otherwise, maybe it's not for you, but overall, it is a great service. I think it's a good alternative to ChatGPT and Claude for certain use cases. There's a referral link down below if you want to use that link to sign up. That helps me if you found value in this video. If you're into building with AI and you want to start understanding more, scraping data, working with data with LLMs, go ahead and give me a follow. I try to share as much as I can about what I learn about being a digital entrepreneur in this new age of AI. So I hope to see you in a new video. Don't forget to check that command line bootcamp. There's also a terminal navigation toolkit. I cannot stress enough how important it is to start getting comfortable with the command line if you want to really do cool stuff on the internet with AI. So thanks for watching. I'll see you later.